make women obsessed with this simple forbidden nickname trick. Listen closely. You're making a mistake, a massive silent mistake. Every time you call her babe, every time you say sweetie, every time you use the same tired recycled words that countless weak men have used before you, you think you are being sweet. You think you are building a profound connection. You're not. You are blending in. You're becoming entirely invisible. When a woman hears a generic term of endearment, her brain barely registers it as a blip on her emotional radar, categorizing you seamlessly alongside the meaningless background noise of her daily existence. It feels incredibly cheap. It lacks any real weight. It carries absolutely no unique signature of your grounded masculinity. Stop doing it. Right now. Step back. Today we are stripping away the pathetic illusions of modern dating advice. We are going to explore a psychological trigger so subtle yet so profoundly effective that it will completely rewire how she perceives your intrinsic value. We call it the forbidden nickname. But do not misunderstand my intention here. This is not a cheap trick. This is not a manipulative pickup line from a desperate man seeking external validation. This is an anchor. An emotional anchor dropped deep into the very core of her subconscious. A man of true value, a man who understands the quiet power of Stoicism, does not shower a woman with unearned constant praise. He observes. He remains still. He waits. He sees the hidden authentic layers beneath her carefully curated exterior, and he extracts a single defining characteristic that no one else has noticed. And then he gives it a name only he has the right to use. A name she never knew she desperately wanted to hear. But here is the absolute catch. You do not use it to please her. You use it to define the silent spaces between you. You hold it back. You keep it rare. You guard it. When you finally choose to speak it, the stark contrast between your steady stoic baseline and this sudden piercing moment of intense personal intimacy creates a massive surge of dopamine she simply cannot control. She will crave it. She will subconsciously chase the rare validation that comes with it, not because you are forcing her, but because you are offering a profound depth of perception she has never experienced in her entire life. Welcome to Mind Before Skin. Settle your mind. Breathe in. Let go of the desperate need to impress anyone. We are about to change the way you communicate forever. Think back to a time when you gave everything. You were the considerate man, the attentive partner. Every single morning began with a predictable text. Good morning, beautiful. Every single night ended with a routine farewell. Sweet dreams, gorgeous. You genuinely meant every syllable. You poured your energy into making her feel entirely cherished, believing that an endless stream of sweet affirming words would permanently solidify the fragile bond you shared. But what actually happened? Did she pull closer? No. She drifted. She pulled away. She became a ghost in the very room you shared. You became entirely predictable. You became incredibly safe. You became a glass of lukewarm water on a table she walked past every single day. She read your messages. She smiled a faint polite smile. She forgot them instantly. The trap of being too sweet is a remarkably subtle poison that slowly kills the dynamic of any relationship. When you constantly validate a woman with generic readily available affection, you systematically strip away the essential tension that makes genuine attraction biologically possible. You completely remove the mystery. You signal directly to her primal subconscious that your approval is cheap, infinite, and embarrassingly easy to obtain. And human nature is a brutally honest thing. We simply do not value what is handed to us freely on a silver platter. We value what we must earn through effort and time. We value the rare. We value the elusive. We value the quiet mountain that demands to be climbed, not the flat paved road that offers absolutely zero resistance. By offering your words so carelessly and so frequently, you inadvertently positioned yourself beneath her. You became the anxious court jester, frantically trying to amuse the queen, rather than the grounded king sitting comfortably and silently on his own unshakable throne. It is a painful realization. It cuts deep. It makes you feel foolish. You drop the rope. You step back, you breathe. Let go of the shame entirely. This is a common mistake born of genuinely good intentions, a flaw deeply ingrained in our collective psyche by romantic comedies and absolutely terrible societal advice that conditions men to be soft and constantly accommodating. You were taught to surrender your power, so you surrendered it. Now it is time to rebuild the boundaries of your own kingdom. Instead of being a fragile leaf blown around by the chaotic storms of her emotional wind, you must become the deeply rooted tree that remains entirely unshaken by the shifting weather. You must finally understand that the intentional absence of a compliment is often infinitely more powerful than the compliment itself. Silence speaks. Distance creates burning desire. When you finally stop flooding her with cheap unearned affection, a sudden terrifying vacuum is instantly created in her reality. She feels the immediate shift. The cold air rushes in. She suddenly wonders where your endless attention went and why you are no longer trying so hard to win her over. And right there in that exact silent space of wonder, though the true seed of obsession is quietly planted. Let us look at the machinery of the human mind. It is beautifully ruthless. We are not driven by what we already have. We are driven entirely by what we anticipate, what we crave, and what we occasionally receive under conditions of extreme uncertainty. Enter dopamine, the molecule of desire. Most men fundamentally misunderstand how this intricate system works. They believe dopamine is a chemical of pure pleasure dispensed evenly whenever someone is happy or comfortable. This is a critical, devastating error. Dopamine is not a reward for receiving something easily. It is the chemical of the chase. It spikes exponentially in the presence of an unpredictable reward, creating a fierce biological obsession that forces the brain to aggressively seek out the source of that rare sudden high. When you are always available, always sweet, always using the same tired pet names, you flatline her dopamine, you become elevator music. But a man grounded in his own reality operates entirely differently. He establishes a profound baseline of emotional stoicism. He is polite, he is respectful, he is completely unfazed by her shifting moods, maintaining a calm, unshakable demeanor that naturally commands absolute respect without ever demanding it explicitly. He is the mountain. He does not move. He does not react to her trivial tests. He does not over-explain himself to win her favor. He simply exists in his own powerful frame, observing the chaotic world around him with a quiet, penetrating clarity. Against this steady backdrop of quiet strength, any sudden display of profound intimacy hits with the force of a psychological earthquake. This is exactly where the forbidden nickname enters the equation. It is not a random word casually pulled from a hat. It is a highly specific, intimately crafted label born from silent, razor-sharp observation. It proves that you are not just blindly looking at her physical form, but that you are actually seeing the subtle hidden mechanics of her personality that she desperately hopes someone will finally notice. Maybe she crinkles her nose when she fiercely concentrates on a difficult problem. Maybe she has a quiet, stubborn streak hidden beneath a meticulously polite smile. Maybe she walks with a specific guarded cadence when she feels unsure of her surroundings. You find that singular trait. You isolate it. You name it. When you finally speak that name, you bypass all of her conscious defenses entirely. You are not complimenting her physical appearance, which she hears constantly from 100 weak, predictable men in her digital inbox. You are validating her very essence, plunging an emotional anchor so incredibly deep into her subconscious that she instantly associates you with the profound feeling of being truly uniquely understood on a level she has never experienced. It is intoxicating. It is undeniably powerful. This is the psychological concept of emotional anchoring in its purest, most devastating form. By linking a specific tailored word to a sudden rush of being deeply perceived, you create a permanent neurological trigger. Every single time she hears that word, even if it is just a quiet whisper in the back of her own mind, her brain floods with the exact same intense emotional cocktail she felt the very first time you dared to say it out loud. She feels seen. She feels naked. But the absolute key to this psychological architecture is devastatingly simple, and it requires a level of emotional discipline that most modern men completely lack. Scarcity. Absolute uncompromising scarcity. If you use this newly forged nickname every single day, it immediately loses its magic, degrading back into the useless background noise of a generic compliment. It becomes cheap currency in a heavily saturated market. You must hoard it. You must protect it. You use her real name 99% of the time, maintaining that solid, respectful Stoic distance that perfectly defines your high-value nature. You let her experience the cool, calm reality of your everyday presence. You let her wonder. You let her wait in the silence. And then only when the moment is perfectly aligned, only when she reveals that specific hidden trait to you, in a rare moment of genuine vulnerability, you drop the anchor. You say the word. The stark contrast between your usual unshakable Stoic frame and this sudden piercing laser beam of intimate recognition is exactly what shatters her composure. It creates a massive, irresistible spike in emotional tension. Instead of being a fragile leaf, blown around by her emotional wind, you have become the deeply rooted tree that remains completely unshaken, only choosing to drop a single perfect fruit when you alone decide the time is right. She will not just want to hear it again. She will biologically need to earn it. She will subconsciously start adjusting her behavior, seeking out the specific dynamic that successfully triggers your rare, profound validation. You're not manipulating her. You are simply stepping into the powerful reality of a man whose words actually carry immense, undeniable weight. You're holding your ground, while other men are busy trying to fill the awkward silence with endless, meaningless chatter about themselves. You must lean back into the quiet comfort of your own presence and study the intricate details of how she moves through the world. You're a silent observer. You gather data. Do not look at her physical beauty because 1,000 desperate guys have already praised her eyes, her smile and her hair, leaving those compliments completely devoid of any psychological weight or emotional impact. Look deeper. Find the crack. See the flaw. You're looking for the subtle, fascinating contradiction between the polished, perfect image she presents to society and the raw, unedited reality of who she actually is when her guard drops for a fraction of a second. Does she overthink everything? Is she secretly clumsy? Perhaps she speaks with an overwhelming surge of confidence in a crowded room. But you notice how her fingers nervously twist the cold metal of her rings whenever she is asked a genuinely personal question. Notice the nervous habit. Notice the hidden fire. That beautiful hidden vulnerability is your absolute goldmine, the exact raw material you will use to forge an emotional anchor so incredibly specific that it shatters her carefully constructed defenses with a single perfectly aimed word. Now you name it. You claim it. The forbidden nickname must never be an insult, nor should it ever be a generic term of endearment that makes you sound like a weak, overly accommodating partner desperate for her constant fleeting approval. It must be a statement of pure undeniable fact. If she is constantly trying to control every tiny detail of the date, you do not get annoyed or try to fight her aggressive, dominant energy. You look at her. You call her boss. If she spills her drink because she's talking too fast with her hands, you do not rush to clean it up in a frantic, panicked attempt to act like her personal savior. You sit still. You call her crash. If she pretends to be completely innocent but possesses a dark, wicked sense of humor that only you have managed to briefly uncover in the late hours of the night, she is trouble, she is menace. The specific word you choose is entirely secondary to the profound psychological weight of the delivery, which requires absolute, unshakable confidence and a complete lack of emotional reaction. This is the blueprint. Execution is everything. When the perfect moment finally arrives and she exhibits the exact behavior you have been quietly observing, you do not announce the nickname with a loud, goofy laugh or a desperate, seeking smirk. Drop your voice. Look her in the eye. You deliver the word with a flat, calm, almost deadly seriousness, letting the sound of it hang heavily in the empty air between you like a physical object she can suddenly reach out and touch. You say it and you stop. You do not explain it. Instead of nervously rushing to justify why you called her that, you simply hold her gaze and let the powerful, uncomfortable silence force her to process the fact that you have completely seen through her carefully constructed social mask. She will freeze. Her pupils will dilate. In that exact singular moment, she will feel a thrilling rush of vulnerability, realizing that you are not just another replaceable spectator in her life, but a genuinely dangerous, highly observant man who understands her better than she understands herself. Do not seek a smile. Do not wait for a laugh. If you say the word and immediately look at her face hoping for a positive reaction, you instantly kill the powerful tension and reveal yourself as a man who needs her validation to feel secure in his own skin. You must be entirely indifferent. You must be stone. The truest form of Stoic masculinity is the ability to make a profound, deeply intimate statement and remain completely detached from how the other person chooses to receive it, knowing that your reality does not depend on their fleeting emotional weather. By refusing to elaborate, you force her brain to spin into a state of hyper-focus, wondering what else you have noticed, what else you know, and how she can successfully earn that incredibly rare, validating attention from you again. You've planted the seed. Let it grow. You have the weapon. You hold the key. but possessing a powerful tool is entirely useless if you lack the fundamental emotional discipline to keep it sheathed when the situation does not explicitly demand its use. Discipline is everything here. You must be stone. Most men, the moment they discover a tactic that successfully generates a positive emotional reaction from a woman, will immediately ruin its effectiveness by aggressively repeating it until the dopamine receptor is completely burned out and numb. Do not do this. You are not them. You must understand the Stoic frame, which is the profound realization that your value is not derived from her constant approval, but from your own unshakable ability to withhold your attention until it is genuinely earned through her authentic behavior. You pull it back, you starve the ego. The forbidden nickname must remain exactly that, an incredibly rare exception to the steady, predictable baseline of your interactions, utilized perhaps once a week or even once a month when the stars of her vulnerability and your observation perfectly align. Let the silence speak. Let the distance grow. If you use it every single time you see her, or worse, over text messages, where the profound weight of your physical presence is entirely absent, it instantly transforms back into the cheap, generic garbage you swore to leave behind forever. Scarcity builds the empire. Abundance kills the thrill. When you purposefully withhold this highly potent form of validation, you are not playing a manipulative game of cat and mouse, but rather you are establishing a firm boundary that clearly dictates the extremely high premium placed upon your genuine affection. She must earn it. She must seek it. Instead of being a leaf blown around by her emotional wind, aggressively trying to trigger her happiness at every given opportunity you have, become the deeply rooted tree that remains unshaken, observing the changing seasons of her mood with complete and utter tranquility. You drop the bait. You step back calmly when she does something that specifically highlights the hidden trait you previously named, and she subconsciously looks at you expecting to hear that sweet, validating word. The absolute most powerful thing you can do is simply look back at her with a gentle, knowing silence. Deny her the fix. Watch her mind spin. That intentional omission creates an incredibly powerful psychological vacuum, forcing her to actively chase the validation she was expecting, compelling her to invest her own emotional energy into the dynamic, rather than passively waiting for you to entertain her. The dynamic permanently shifts. You are the prize. She will begin to subtly adjust her actions, highlighting her unique quirks and displaying her authentic self with increasing frequency, desperately hoping to coax that rare, intoxicating word out from behind the impenetrable fortress of your stoic demeanor. You remain completely calm. You do not rush. The power of withholding is not about being cruel or emotionally distant, but about recognizing that the truest form of connection is built on a foundation of mutual respect, where your words carry the heavy, undeniable gravity of a man who does not speak lightly. Speak only the truth. Speak it very rarely. Every time you successfully resist the desperate urge to over-validate her, you're actively building a massive reservoir of internal respect, cementing your position as a high-value man who is completely comfortable existing within the quiet, powerful space of his own self-worth. You are the mountain. You weather the storm. The true test of your masculine core happens in the exact moment she challenges your silence playfully, demanding to know why you have not used her special name, desperately trying to pull you back into the predictable frame of a common, easily controlled man. You do not flinch, you do not yield. You simply offer a faint, enigmatic smile, perfectly communicating that your inner peace is completely independent of her fleeting desires and that she will simply have to wait until you organically decide that the moment is worthy of your profound recognition. You hold the frame. You own the reality. The dynamic fundamentally shifts. You feel it. The air changes completely. When you successfully implement the forbidden nickname, meticulously pairing a profound psychological anchor with uncompromising stoic distance, you're no longer the one desperately chasing her fleeting attention in a crowded, noisy room of average men. She chases you. She leans in. She seeks the prize. You will begin to notice a quiet, fascinating transformation in how she interacts with your presence as she subconsciously alters her behavior to recreate the exact conditions that previously earned her that rare, intoxicating drop of your concentrated validation. She wants the name. She craves the recognition. She will subtly test you. She will act out the specific trait you identified, glancing at you from the corner of her eye, desperately hoping that the impenetrable fortress of your silence will crack just long enough to let that specific word slip out. You watch her. You smile slightly. You remain completely still. This is not about playing a malicious game of emotional manipulation. but about entirely rewriting the underlying architecture of your own masculine value, proving to both her and yourself that your attention is an incredibly expensive commodity that cannot be bought with mere physical beauty. Your words have weight. Your silence has power. You own yourself. When you finally realize that the ultimate prize in any interaction is not her body or her immediate approval, but rather the unshakable preservation of your own grounded reality, you become a man who is completely immune to the chaotic fluctuations of modern dating. You're no longer playing a rigged game. You're completely rejecting a system designed by a weak society to keep you constantly anxious and perpetually seeking external validation from people who do not actually respect your passive accommodating nature. You have entirely stepped off that exhausting treadmill to nowhere. You have built your own unshakable foundation. You are the architect. You build the frame. The forbidden nickname is simply a tool, a highly effective psychological mirror that reflects your own deep perception and unyielding discipline, forcing her to confront the reality that she is dealing with a man who truly sees her, yet does not desperately need her. Hold your ground. Know your absolute worth. Never surrender the quiet power. As you walk through the world dropping these rare anchors only when they are genuinely deserved, you will leave a profound, unforgettable mark on the psychology of the women you choose to interact with. They will remember you. They will always wonder. Now take a moment to look inward and examine the dynamics of your own past interactions with a brutal, uncompromising honesty. Think about it. Be completely real. What is the most painfully generic, ineffective nickname you have ever caught yourself using when you were desperately trying to win a woman over? And what specific hidden trait would you confidently choose to anchor her with today? Drop your answer below. Share your quiet realization. Welcome to the Brotherhood of the Grounded Mind. We will see you in the next one.